Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the REDX podcast. I'm really excited today. I'm excited every time we do this because we have great guests. We have great material. I'm really excited. Richard Duggal out of Toronto is with us today. Richard, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
So so that you know, and so that everybody else knows, we are streaming this on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on our website. So whatever channel you're on there and you have questions for Richard, make sure that you write those in there. Those will be relayed over to me, and we'll be able to ask Richard questions in real time, get real information. And Richard, you have quite a resume as a coach, as a trainer. This is your bread and butter, is relaying positive habits and tricks for people to be successful. Is that right?
Absolutely. I was committed to being the real deal. Like, I want to be able to demonstrate what I'm doing. So when people come to my office or whatever, my team, I won't just say, call these FISBOs and say that. I said, give me the phone and I'll start calling in front of them. So I'm the closing machine. I'm the real deal.
That's excellent. I'm excited. And we talked pre-show a little bit. I think that Richard's got hours and hours of material that we could go over. We're gonna get the best parts of that. We're gonna put it into the next 45 or 50 minutes here. So I'm really grateful. Welcome back to Amanda and all the other loyal listeners with us. Richard, let's talk about mindset, right? Let's talk about, you said I'm the closing machine. Let's talk about that a little bit, because to have that belief about how you do business, I'm a closing machine, that does require a certain mindset. Am I right?
Absolutely. Because when we were at school, we were basically, what happened is that we were tamed. So if you go back in history and the agricultural industry at that time, what happened is people were on farms and kids were playing in the farmland. And they were playing around and they were on horses and stuff. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to jump around, and that's what we do. But then the Industrial Revolution came and Henry Ford built these factories, and they had to train people to sit there moving a widget in a factory. So the school system, it kind of conditioned us to be docile. So all I ask is, if you have any nephews or children that are 9 years old, 10 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, can you even sit them down? Like, you get 2 or 3 together, they're climbing on the couch. So how is a school teacher going to get 30 kids to sit there? Because, so what they try to do is take the hunter out of us. But the good news is it's still in us. Because if we were a caveman, our job was to go out and hunt. It's our destiny. It's our birthright to be a sales hunter, to be a hunter, to go out and get business, right? So there's 2 types of ways of doing business. One is farming. Nothing wrong with that, but it can make you a bit docile because you're kind of waiting and saying, hi, I know you don't want to list, but I've got a pumpkin festival and I'll be dropping those things off. And nothing wrong with that, adding that to your business. But if you want to be successful, if you want all the money you can make and help all the people you can help, you got to go out and hunt. We need to be a hunter. So a hunter is always looking for opportunity. And even more so, a hunter creates opportunity. So I was on the phone one day. It was a Saturday, and I said to a gentleman, I want to come and talk about your listing. He said, I got 5 interviews, but you can still come. And I go, okay, I'm going to go for it. So I went to that interview. I walk in. He said, I'm sorry, Richard. What happened is an agent already came in, and I've got an offer. I think I've sold the house. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. He said, this Oriental lady came in with her people, nice lady, and they're going to come back with an offer. So I don't need you anymore. I said, that's great. I just relaxed. I said, show me the house anyway in the meantime. And he did. And then I said to him, let me ask you a question. I'm just guessing here. You told me the nationality of the agent. Yeah. So what, who was you working with? Same thing. I said, so you don't even know this person? No. And then I explained to him about buyer agency versus being a listing agent. And I said to him, do you know that when you write the clauses on the offer, there's actually different clauses to protect the buyer when they bring the offer? In fact, when you go to the computer, you actually switch. Are you a buyer agent or the listing agent? So when that person brings the offer, all the conditions and the clauses are there to protect the buyer. And you can't blame them. They're doing their job, their rightful duty. I said, what you need is someone to protect yourself. And he said, yeah, I think it actually made sense to him. And I said these complicated words, from the real estate board. I don't even know what they mean. Anyway, but he got scared anyway. Conjure cliff or something clause or whatever. Anyway, and he said, I said, you know what? What I'll do is when they come back, I'll do it just for a little bit of commission and I'll just negotiate for you. He goes, okay. I said, here it is. Just give me an exclusive listing. So he actually signed it. He signed the listing. Anyway, she came back to the house with her buyers with an offer, and she was so mad. I said to her, thank you for coming to the property. The property is listed. I'm here to represent. And obviously she wasn't very happy about that. Anyway, so we went through that. And anyway, she was like so mad, she kind of like lost the deal herself. She goes, that's all my buyers will pay and all that. Kind of helped me in a sense. And she left, maybe coming back. So now I've got a problem because I've got a listing agreement, but I want an MLS agreement, which is a higher commission. I thought, what do I do now? And I just did it. I said, this is an exclusive, which means it's for that one buyer, which we already know is not going to pay your price. And this is an MLS, which means I can bring more buyers. Which would you like? Do you want me to bring more buyers and get more money? You go, what's involved? I go, you sign it. He goes, okay. And he actually signed it. And I sold it 2 weeks later. And the reason I'm mentioning that story is that the hunters don't just, go for opportunity, which is important. We actually create it. So in that essence, I actually created. Now, just to give a nice ending to that story, I met her about 2.5, 3 years later. She brought an offer on my property, and she was laughing. She was cracking up. In fact, she was laughing so much. She brought an offer. We were outside the house, a bungalow. I said, you got to cool down. The sellers will think, we're laughing at them, your offer or something. But she was laughing so much. So it was a good, but the fact is that we're hunting for business. And, thank goodness for your company providing the opportunities so that we can actually go out and find someone to call.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that's a really good example of creating opportunity, because I think there's a lot of agents out there that would get in that situation. Somebody says, oh, I don't need you anymore. I've already got a buyer coming. I think a lot of people would turn and walk away. Right. Yeah. And what you're saying exactly. What you're saying is, I created that opportunity by continuing the conversation. I didn't write it off as being something that I couldn't use as beneficial to my business. And it turned out to work out really well for you in the end, right?
And you bought something too. Like I went to one appointment, I didn't get the listing. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm all dressed up. I'm ready to go. I'm just like, I'm ready to go. I didn't get it. And so I started just knocking on the doors. I go to a property. It's a big property, bigger than the one I had. And these Indian people from Guyana were there, and I listed that property. Next thing you know is about 2 months later, I think it was, I called my original one back, and I took that listing, and he bought something. But we're always looking for opportunity, like we're seeking it. And when you have that mindset, you'll call any lead, like you'll pick up your phone, and you'll say, I need to call someone, I need to make some money. So one thing that happened to me in my mindset is when I related it actually took me a while to get to this level, longer than I wish. It was about a few years, but I started to relate the telephone to making money. Like something happened to my brain. So I go, I need some money. Oh, the telephone. And I start dialing it. So once we can relate that, anchor that to making money, something happens and you will be calling all night. So I have to thank other people that help me, coaches. So I heard a myth about this particular person. And his name was Sconza. I said, there's this guy that was really like the number one on the real estate board. And he said that the difference between him and other agents at that time, when, the old days, is that when you wanted an offer to be written, the secretary would do it and you'd wait and she would type it up. There weren't all these computers. He said the difference between him and other agents is the other agents would get a cigarette while they're waiting. And he would get on a phone book and start dialing. And that luckily story, that was told to me about maybe 6 months in, and something happened to my brain. It's almost like the Matrix. I go, that's me. And I never actually had a chance to meet gentlemen, but I have so much respect because that story changed my life. And I became, like a hunter. And I started to list a lot. I listed so many properties, I couldn't even service them. Because at that time, there was no such thing as a team, so I had to use agents in the office. But I found that I had a knack of getting people to sign the contract. Because my attitude when I go into a listing is, seriously, I'm not, first of all, when I go up, I say, I'm listing the property and it has nothing to do with them. Like they have nothing to do with it. I'm listing it. It's done. And my second one, or simultaneous, is I'm not leaving without the listing. That's it. I'm not leaving. So what are you going to do? Like in my mind, I'm not leaving. And because I had that mindset, it caused creativity. Because I have this thing that I had, many years ago. I was sitting, once, in bed. I took this book, and it was Leonardo da Vinci, and it was about genius. And what I saw in there is that he actually designed a helicopter like hundreds of years ago. He's got a diagram of it. And I go, wow. And then it came to my mind, and I still have this belief. And that's why I like to work with people and build them. And, someone says, he's a genius. And I go, you're a genius. I know it. And now research is actually showing it's caught up. And I said, you're a genius. Like, I can be a genius. So what happened is that when you believe you can be a genius, you become more creative. You go, I'm a genius. So why don't you say, I'm a genius? And what will happen is it'll trigger thoughts, creativity. So give yourself permission to be a genius. Give yourself permission. Why would you give somebody else a permission? Right? When you were brought up from the baby and they pulled you out, and you go, oh, by the way, this is not a genius. That one, not. He was, but he's not. Why would you do that to yourself? Right? So what I'm saying is that we're all geniuses. We just got to activate that mind.
So here's the question, the $1 million question, Richard, is I'm with you. I think the mindset and the belief that you can do anything is necessary for extreme success, right? But how do we do it, right? How do I create that mindset? So let's pretend for just a minute that I'm a brand new real estate agent, and I've come to you and I've said, hey, I want to create a hunter mindset like you, Richard. Tell me what to do. What are the things that I should do?
Okay. This is what you do. And it seems like very basic, but that's where the money is, the basic stuff. Because a master is always a master of the basics. Yet a lot of people never done this exercise. So I'll tell you what happened. I was outside the property, and at that time, I was really good at taking listings, but not the greatest at servicing them. So what I would do is I'd take agents from the office. I said, you sit here, don't say a word, you'll ruin it for me. And if they ask you a question, I got it down to a science, by the way. You look at me. I got it down to a science. Anyway, that idea of doing that, and he would service it. So this particular one, he was in there servicing it. And the other agent who brought the offer came around, and he knocked on the window because he saw me writing like furiously. And he goes, what are you doing? I never met him, but I know he's a top agent. I heard about him. I said, I'm writing down why people should list with me. And he goes, well, that's kind of, so what you do is, the first thing for an agent to do is you put number 1 to 10. And the reason why you put the numbers first is you force yourself and you write down, why should somebody list with me? So the story you make up in your mind is you went on a listing appointment and the person went to Spain and he forgot about the time change. And he calls you and you go, what's that emergency? And you pick, and they say, Tyler, my wife wants to go back with this other agent, but I actually like you. And she actually said to me, why should we list with you? Why should we? I didn't have an answer. So please forgive my bluntness, but why should we list with you? And if you haven't got an answer for that, you're in trouble. So what I do is I do recruiting. I have a team, and I say to people, why should somebody list with you? And very rarely do I get somebody who can even answer that question. So we need to have that answer at 10 o'clock in the morning. So what you do is you write 10 reasons why someone should list with you. And this is the beginning of the mindset process. Because what they'll find, an agent will find, is after about 5, you actually run out. But what I say is just write them down. The fact you're full-time means you're probably in the top, 10% of your market, 15%. Give yourself some credit. We can always improve it later, but start filling it out, right? The fact you're with this particular company, whatever the pride and, prestige or whatever that company has in the market, if that is the case. So what happens, you write down, you actually have a marketing plan. These are basic ones that everyone can just write down. So I got the top 3 already. So what happens is that you have a coach to hold you accountable to getting your listing sold. That's an original one that no one writes until I tell them. But what happens is you want to write that too if you have a coach. So now you got 4. So what you do is you build that list, and it's a list you will refine. Now, if you only get to 5 now, put it down and then go back later. And then what you'll do is that because you're doing certain things, for example, one of the people I coach, and she was struggling, I said, do you call the agents who show your listings? And she said, I'm starting. So we sold her on the idea of doing that. I said, does it cause a home to sell? She said, definitely. I called, she's from Arizona. She said, I called an agent and I got him, he wasn't actually going to bring an offer. Like he was like, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, and you know what? He brought me an offer. I don't know if it would have happened. I said, is that a value to the customer? Yeah. So that's something unique to you. So what will happen eventually is that the person will now get more creative. So it's a working document. Think of it as a working document. So if somebody uses your service, they can say that I'm getting leads for buyers in your area. Leads, because not every, but many sellers are buyers. So even if you have to go after sellers, well, don't we ask them, when do you plan on moving, where you're moving to? So now what you do is, now you've got the list. What you do is, before you go on the appointment, you actually look at the list and you emotionalize the benefits for the customer. And it doesn't take long. It sounds like it would. You emotionalize, say, man, I'm full-time agent. They're getting a lot of calls, and some of these guys have another job. They're the local postman. Number two, I've sold more homes in this area, this particular, than anyone else in the last 2 months. Next, and you say, they need someone like me. Then what happens is, when you walk in there, you've almost got a glow, because you know it's all for the customer, the value for the customer. And the best part is that when they say something, like, it doesn't happen very often, but occasionally somebody might say, why should we list with you? Or even they may say it this way, how do you sell homes? You see, it will come out so fluently, so crystal clear. And they go, oh, wow. And it's not so much what we said, as we know in persuasion, because I'm an NLP trainer. It's the congruency and the clarity of the way you say it. So what happens is that this builds your belief. This builds a belief of a mindset. The other thing, switching to another technique, simple techniques that I did myself, is when you've listed a property from prospecting, put those listings on your wall, on your prospecting wall. And if you're motivated by money, write down how much you made in red on it. So when you're calling, and you go, and you remind yourself it was the last call you made on that, whatever it was, on January the 17th. And you go, and I remember that day, I was going to go home. I was kind of tired. And I said, let me finish my call. I'm supposed to do 30 a day. I'm at 27. And my 28th, I made that deal, and I made whatever it was, 17,000, because I bought a home. So when you look at that, it reminds you.
So if what I gather from these two techniques, right? You're talking about mastering the basics, but then you say, look, write down, make a list 1 through 10. Why should people list with you? And write those things down. But I love this idea that you say, but don't just leave it there, right? It's a working document, and then emotionalize it, right? Review those before you go into a listing appointment.
Yeah.
Because it gives you certain self-confidence, but it's also a value to the person on the other end, right? Because you can confidently say, these are the reasons why I'm the person to take it up.
And the thing is that even if you don't say it, Tyler, what happens is that, can you see that the belief in yourself? Let's say it never comes up. It doesn't really matter, because you know you're the best person for that, or build your confidence up, right? The other thing is, I can go on forever, so you better stop me. Go to the next question.
Well, so the other thing that you talked about, right, is, and I like this idea also, is remind yourself of the success you've had. Take the listings that you've taken, the previous deals that you've done, remind yourself by putting those, on your wall, around your cubicle, in your office, wherever you are, which I think reminds us that, hey, we are successful. And when there's those down days where we're getting no, we know that the yeses are out there.
And you can look at your list, it'll always uplift you. Say, I'm a great agent for my people. Just a quick thing. Also, build a ritual like Tony Robbins has before he goes on stage. Okay. And mine is simple. When I'm going to I don't walk slowly. I don't run either, because they might be looking out the window. But what I do is I walk with grace and power. It's called walking with grace and power. So when in NLP, you learn some things. So what happens? I was actually fortunate, because when I took NLP, I didn't want to just learn from the guy who trained the guy who trained the guy. I trained with the founders, like, directly. I'm actually one of the few living people on the planet that actually train with the founders, because they don't, they don't actually talk anymore, by the way. So I had to go to one, get certified by him. So I took some of that stuff on. So what happens is that your posture is really important. It affects your body and the way you think. So the idea is, when they say like, put your chest up and all that and your back, well, you'll notice it's kind of uncomfortable. So the best way to do it is so simple, is a sky hug. So you imagine yourself a sky hug, and you'll just notice it's more comfortable. Your posture is good. And when you're walking, for me, find out what it is. I'm the best. So I'm walking about, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. So what happened is I used to sell door to door before real estate. And there was one guy, and he was like a biker kind of a guy. He's always like pumped. He's like, rah. He's always like that, like big guy and like that, just like you imagine. And I just like that about him. So I kind of took that on. So what I do is, before I go on the appointment, this is mine, so find out what works for you. I get myself all psyched up. I'm the best, I'm the best. I'll get myself psyched up, and I kind of bring that aggression in me, like the hunter, sales hunter. And then when I'm walking towards the door, I calm myself down. But that energy is still in me. And I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. Because when you walk in just smiling and you shake the hands, you can actually feel the electricity transferring to the person. It's incredible. And the last thing I'll tell you for now, I know we got a lot of topics, things I created, so I want to make sure that people get it, because it's not publicly available. I only train my clients, is that before you go on the appointment, as you're going there, remind yourself what you liked about that person on the phone. And you go, oh yeah, such a great people. And she was so nice and all that. And just what you like, simple as that. Because when you go up, you see how that will show up? Mm-hmm. And then somebody might say, but what if the guy was nasty? Like, yeah, if you want to come over, come, but I'm not listing with you, and you guys don't do anything anyway. You can actually like that person, and it's a frame in your brain. What you tell yourself is, what I tell myself is, that guy didn't want to give me an appointment. You talk to a lot of agents. Do you know how hard it was for that guy to give me an appointment? Thank you, buddy, because I know that was hard for you. Even then, you can go in there. So when you have that liking for somebody, when you walk up, it sounds kind of corny, doesn't it? But you go, do you see your mindset? Rather than what's for dinner and, I've got to pick up the groceries on the way or whatever. You go, wow. And so when you go, you don't say anything, but people can feel it. They can feel it. So combined with all these things, you look to, and once you've done the anchors, remember emotionalizing the benefits. Like, I actually call every agent. You know how much work that takes? Like, some don't want to hear from me. It's like, it's more rejection than cold calling these agents. But I do it for my clients. When you go in there like that, right? And the other thing is that when you're there, and this will work for the people who are money motivated, is that you actually see your check on the table. You actually visualize it, and it's the amount of money. So let's say it's 10 grand, and you say to yourself, and they're talking and blah, 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 more interviews, and you say to yourself, I ain't leaving without my check.
So let me ask this question, Richard, because, and I love these ideas that you're sharing with us, and I think that these do help create a very strong mindset, which is necessary. Let me ask this question. When business is not good, that obviously has a negative effect on our mindset. How would you train an agent to continue to remain positive, continue to remain motivated in spite of maybe a low streak or a poor start to their business?
Well, first of all, I don't allow those thoughts in my mind, because you said something there. Obviously, it's a negative mindset or whatever. See, that doesn't even exist for me. So when you said that, it was like a foreign, thing, like
okay.
So seriously, it was. So if we accept
unknown caller.
A lead calling.
Hey,
one of your leads is calling me back.
Business is good.
So what happens is that if I don't allow the first thought like that, then it's easy. Because why should I believe that? This is a chance for me to shine. Because what happens is that my first thought, seriously, when it happened, is this not me being Mr. Positive. It's just the way anybody that works for me, they'll tell you the same thing. They see me, is that I look for opportunity. Remember, I'm a hunter. So I'm looking for opportunity. I'm creating opportunity. A sales hunter. So my first thought is great. Not great for some things that happen to people, obviously, but I know that my competition is not going to be working right now. That's my that was my first thought, and still is. Like, this is great. So anybody that, let's say, was not at the top, this is the equalizer. This is where things are shaken up. You got a chance. So let's say I was in Wall Street and I'm trying to get these doctors to invest in my stuff, in my stocks. That is hard to get in because they have established, people calling them. So if those people are kind of like negative and wound down, which is a lot going to happen at home, it's my chance to get in there. So people wait for this chance. When there's uncertainty, is a shakeup. Because when things are stable and everyone's on their line, it's much harder to move ahead because everyone's got their thing going. But when things are shaky, it's your chance to grab the market. And you know that those people who are spending a lot of money on marketing, they still got those bills, but the incoming calls may be not the same quality anyway, or same opportunity. So it's your chance to get on the phone and start prospecting. So what you want to do is say, this is my opportunity. So you differentiate yourself by saying, I'm in a competitive business. I hope the industry does well as a whole. And long term, everyone does well because it maintains our MLS and our business. But right now is my chance to shine. Seriously, that is the attitude. So the fact is that what are the first things to go for normal people? You say to yourself, I'm not normal. It's their routine. They're going to drop their routine. So this is my chance to even the field. They're not going to wake up in the same time. They're not going to exercise, right? They're probably not going to be prospecting. They're not going to be practicing. So this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. What if everybody was prospecting 3 hours a day in your whole marketplace? What if we got 54,000 agents? What if 54,000 people called the expire tomorrow? You wouldn't be able to get on the line. So if there's less people for that FISBO expired, isn't that a good thing if you're going to work? So that's the beginning of that. But we need to keep the ritual. And the fact is that really realistic though? So what you do is you go, let me make a realistic schedule. I'm not in the office maybe, but what I'll do is I'll master the morning. If you master the morning, the rest of the day will be free. You can spend time with your family or whatever situation somebody's in, if they're at home, depending on where they are in North America. But you say, I'm going to master the morning and get it out of the way. And then you do, the schedule. So you need to schedule the day, the next day, because our brain likes certainty. So the next day you say, this is my schedule. But don't make it so rigid that you're not going to follow it. Make it, and put buffer zones in there for like screw up time. Because that's what I tell my coaching clients, because some of them come in and every minute, 15 minutes is like, and I know it's not going to work. So I put in screw up time because it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you got more time, then you don't feel guilty. I even tell people in their yearly plan, put 2 weeks screw up time. Because let's say your friend says, let's go on vacation. You can go without feeling guilty. Let's say you're sick or whatever. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, what I'm taking away is that when there's maybe that negative mindset that does creep in, it sounds like go back to the routine, go back to the basics, right?
Yeah. You can't always control the first thought, but you can control the second.
I totally agree. Easier said than done, but I agree.
Right? So a lot of it is going to be who you surround yourself with. Because anyone in my room now, you can't be negative around me. It's impossible. Like me and Andrew, who works with you, we had such a fun call yesterday. I even played some of my prospecting calls. You can't, and not just me, I got people in my life. I got coaches. So when you got those people around you, a lot of it is going to be who's around you. And then you might think, what if there's people, at home or whatever, or other people that are not? Then look at yourself as the role model, as the hero, and say, this is my chance to up my game to be the hero. But obviously, there's a lot of things, but I don't want to repeat things because a lot of great ideas have been given. But I guess it's worth repeating now is you got to fill your mind with positive stuff that inspires you. But the ritual is really important. I've noticed the first thing to go when someone's not doing something, they out of their routine. So you re-engineer your routine that works for you depending on the new environment, but you follow that routine and don't make it ridiculously tough. Then now you're going to feel bad you're not following it. Just make it kind of simple and even easy, I would say, kind of easy to follow in terms of like, I can do that.
I love it. And we've got a few questions that are coming in, Richard. I want to address some of these as they come in. One of them, I want to make sure that people know who you are. And as I mentioned, you've got quite the impressive resume, including being RE/MAX Circle of Legends, which means you've earned a minimum of $10 million in commissions over 10 years. I mean, that alone is such a huge accomplishment. You've been in real estate for how long, Richard?
Right, because what happens is that I didn't want to dwell on myself. I want to give value, but since you know, I will address it because it might be valuable for some people or inspire some people. So yeah, when in my 4th year, I was number 7 in the country at a national franchise with 0 advertising, 0 flyers, and not even a website at that time, just calling, prospecting. And I found that I was able to get people to list property when I walked in the door. I can get them to list. For some reason, they signed the contract. So I knew that I wasn't the greatest at servicing them in the sense like I took too many to service them, like calling them. But one thing that I did was I became a student of the art of selling. And the secret, if anybody wants to know the secret of real estate success, the secret of real estate success, selling real estate, is mastering the conversation of real estate. Because once you master the conversation, you're going to make more calls. You're not going to drive a FISBA. So I spent my whole life training myself. And yeah, and then what happened is that, oh, by the way, I got a little bit of history, kind of fun history. I looked in the local, I went to the bookstore once, and there's a magazine called Toronto Life, which is like a tourist magazine. You know, they have it in London. I'm from England originally. You know, the hotels and restaurants. And it happened to have a page where it actually showed, you know, breaking down the different areas in Toronto. And I just found out that I was working the lowest price range in Toronto. And that happened by accident. I joined an office where they worked the area. I go, what the heck? So you know what I did? I picked the highest one. And I actually went there. I got in my car and I drove there and I joined that office. And it's a luxury brand. And so it's called Harvey Callis. It's a #1, probably top 10 in the world. And I went there and I started prospecting because these guys don't prospect. And they were looking at me, you know, like, what's he doing? He's prospecting. So anyway, I started taking all these listings and I broke their record in 42 years. And I'm one of the few agents that does 7 figures. And now I'm doing more marketing like the last year or so, but just calling and going on appointments. Like no crappy website, no flyers, 0. Like anyone in Toronto will tell you they've never seen an ad from Richard ever. No ad, nothing wrong with it. You know, and now I'm getting into it now. Like, okay, I'll play that game, but I'm talking about hardcore, getting on the phone, getting an appointment. So that's what I've done. And then what happened is that I want to give credit to the people as well. Because I went to a seminar and I saw the person teaching scripts in Florida, Matthew. And he is great, amazing person. So what happened is on the stage and he's teaching scripts like on 3x5 card scripts, which are great to learn as a beginner. And then he said, let me handle objections. So he's walking through and handling objections, like, and everyone's going, like taking everyone down. But he wasn't even using the scripts on the card. He was adapting what he's saying to the people. But something happened to my brain. And I was sat in the back. And I said to myself, it was like a calling from above or something. I go, I don't even know. I think my hand went out. I went, I want that. And it took me 5 years. But I knew that I'd have to go into hypnosis, NLP, to be able to do that. And now I can do it, you know, blindfolded. But what happened is that I trained myself on language, on the power of language. And that's what I'm known for. And, you know, some of the big companies, like one of the massive one, the 40 years of their retreats, I'm the only person they've actually played a live call on the stage. And that particular gentleman I just mentioned, he used to use my calls when he used to train the scripts going around. And not only mine, nobody else. And they actually used to use my calls, live calls, in their training center. I used to get calls, like they're salespeople who are calling people. Because when it comes to selling and persuasion, I'm an assassin. Like I heard a role play where you were role playing and somebody said, You said to the person, "I'll speak to my wife,"
Mm-hmm.
and the person, great person, said, "Great, I'll follow up." And I'm thinking, eh? When I heard that, I go, "This is when the games have just begun." So one of my anchors is Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. And what happened is he brings everyone on the island, all the best fighters. And the only reason Bruce Lee went there is because his relative got hurt there, his sister or something. So anyways, he wanted to get revenge. He had his own plan. Day before, they've got a big feast. They got like the big pig, on the thing. They got whatever, ladies and whatever. He's got like they're feasting the men, right? Food everywhere, drinks. The next day, he's sitting on the throne, Han, like North Korean kind of a guy. And he's sitting there, and he's got the two women there. He's got the crown. He's got the big chair, and then everything's calm. And he says these words. He goes something like this. He goes, "Let the games begin." And you hear this chill, and they go right to Bruce Lee. There's a fight or whatever. So when I hear that, it's like an anchor. Like, I've got other agents. I have to, Richard. Everything's great. You sound great. But I do have other, interviews, like I told you on the phone. They kind of set you up, right?
Let the games begin.
Yeah. And then in my mind, I go, let the games begin. But I see other agents stop. Because what happened is that I was actually, it was Fizbo's, just so you know. And this is verifiable. Ask anyone in town. Meet my competitors who, some like me, some don't. But then none of them can tell you this is not the case. That on Fizbo's, I get them first crack. Most of them, I walk in and I get that listing. I know that we're supposed to follow up and we're taught to follow up, and I do follow up. And that is the premise of real estate training. But I get them on the spot, and I've trained people to do that. So
I'd like to put you on the spot here, Richard.
It's not the spot. It's showtime.
It's let the games begin, right? So yeah. I would love to do a role play with you, and if you can pick, I'll let you control. But I can be an expired listing, I could be a for sale by owner. But I think, and we're having some questions from our listeners. They're saying, "Hey, let's do a role play." So let's do
expired just for fun, because it's got a bit of more of an edge to it.
Whatever
you want, though.
I can be edgy, but
if you want.
I'd like to follow up after that, and I'd like to ask our listeners, while we're doing this role play, I'd like for them to chat in some of the common objections that they run into, and we'll try to handle some of those objections. So let's do a role play, and then let's talk about some objection handlers as they come in from our listeners, and let's see where that takes us for the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay,
we're
ready? Okay, ring.
Hello.
I'm looking for Tyler.
Yeah, that's me.
Hi, Tyler. Thank you. This is Richard, the local real estate agent, and I'm on my computer looking for properties for my buyers, and it seems like your listing kind of popped off the screen. Is it available for sale, please?
Yes, I'm no longer working with an agent, but it is still available for sale. So if you have a qualified buyer, you're welcome to bring them by, and we can entertain that discussion at that point.
Thank you for the invitation. That's great. So what you're saying is you do want to sell the property if you can get a buyer to buy that property.
Yes, but as I mentioned, we're no longer working with an agent. We're going to sell it on our own, and so I mean, again, if you have a qualified buyer, then you're welcome to bring them by.
Excellent. So in selling it on your own or with an agent or whatever, however you decide to do that, is when it does sell, where are you moving to?
Well, we're moving out into the country a bit. We'd like to move away from the bustling city and get down into the suburbs where we have some space.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So have you seen anything that you like?
Yes. Yeah, we actually have another home under contract already.
Oh, wonderful. So what's important about moving to that property? It sounds really good.
Well, again, we want to have more space, and as our kids grow, we want to make sure that they have space to grow and experience some of the things that we want them to experience. So it's important for us to get out there for those reasons.
That's really important, yeah. So what you're saying is there's experiences there that they can have and that are not available to them right here, where you are now.
Yep.
So what would happen if your home did not sell?
Well, we're actually contingent on the other home on this selling. So again, if you've got a qualified buyer, we'd be interested in talking to them. but we would want to make sure that they have approved financing and that they're, like I said, a qualified buyer. I don't want somebody who just is coming to give me a looky-loo. I don't need to waste my time. That's how I felt my other agent was treated the situation, and we ended up having lots of showings with no offers. So again, if you've got a buyer who you know is fit for this property, then let's continue the discussion.
I like that. And that is so critical to get them qualified. So being in that property with your children there, knowing that you're giving them the experiences that you want for them and they deserve, being your children, and having that bigger space, what will that do for you?
Well, like I said, it allows us to provide them the experiences that we want them to have. And that's important to us. I think that's important to most parents. So we want to make sure that we can give that to our kids.
You know what? You got me right there, because I'm a father myself. And I guess as a father, you being a father, me being a father, in essence, you're right. We are the hero of our children, right? Like, our job is to bring good food to the family table, to bring safety and opportunity for them.
Yes.
So when you look at this move, it's a family move in this essence. Part of it is being a family move, correct?
Yes.
And it's for the children. It's for you. It's for you to be that father that you want to be, and I'll provide for them. And I honor that as a father myself. So when you look at that, this isn't about whether you choose an agent, not choosing. Like, you're not selling the property for the purposes of outwitting the agents or anything, or the industry, right? You want to get the property sold, correct?
Correct.
So if you got a buyer, like you mentioned, whether it came from you or somebody else or an agent, it doesn't matter to you as long as you get the price, the closing date, and give that opportunity to your children, correct? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's do this. I don't mind. I've got some time this afternoon or this evening. I'll do some research on the property to find the highest retail price available for your property. And when I bring that research to you, we'll go through it. We'll take a look at it, see what's possible, see if that price is available to you that you mentioned on the listing here, and see how we can get that, and see if we can get you and your family to that property so that the kids can have that opportunity. So I've got time this afternoon around 2:00, or I can meet you say around 7. What's better for you?
Well, will you be bringing your buyer with you?
Absolutely. In essence, I represent the buyers because I have a database of, the last time I checked I got 316 buyers in my database, and many of them are obviously looking for this area. So the good thing is I'll know within 15, 20 minutes, even sooner, whether I can get one of those buyers to your property or one of my network of agents that I work with who also have buyers. Because the key is to get the best price possible, correct?
Yeah, it is. But again, we're listed with an agent for 6 months. Again, I feel like I showed the property a bunch of times. The agent showed the property a bunch of times. We had 0 offers. So it really only makes sense for me if you have somebody who's interested in my house specifically, not just a network of buyers. Exactly.
So let's find that out. So what we can find among that pool, or even someone that can generate for you. So I've got 2:00 or 7:00 available. Because if you focus on getting to where you want, that destination, the result, that's the key, getting that to that property, getting the home sold. When you focus on that, picture that, keep that in mind, what we'll find is like, we'll get there, we'll find a way of getting there. And if I can't list, I'll give you a deal. I'll only list the property if I feel I can sell it. Is that fair enough?
Well, I don't know that I'm interested in listing it with another agent. That's the big thing. Our last agent, again, didn't feel like they got the job done. And so I don't know that I'm interested in listing.
You know what? We're in the same page. Because see, when I come and meet with you, Tyler, one of 3 things will happen. Number one, you'll see that, wow, this guy can sell it. And in that case, you'll have the opportunity to obviously list the property with me. On number 2, you'll decide not to list the property with me, Tyler. On number 3, I'll find I can't get that price. It's not going to happen. In which case, I'll leave you my card. We'll watch the market together to see if I can get a better price in the future. Hopefully the market will catch up. But the good thing is the whole meeting will take between 10 to 15 minutes unless you have more questions. But wouldn't it be good to know, to open that opportunity to get the home sold, because I can be there, say, at 2 o'clock or at 7. When is your wife home?
Well, she'll be home this evening, but let me ask you this: I mean, you can obviously see my house online. Just a gut check. What price would you list my house at right now?
Well, it says you've done a lot of renovations, right? Custom renovations.
Correct.
What's the best feature of your home?
I think the best feature. We have a lot of great features. It's a great home, and I think the best feature that we have is we have this amazing great room. We face west with that great room, so as the sun sets, we have amazing views. And if you can get over the neighbors' rooftops and obstruct some of that view, then we've got amazing sunlight, lots of natural light that comes in, flows into the kitchen that we've fully renovated in the last couple of years, and it's all an incredibly custom job. So I feel like that's probably the core feature of our home that people would really be drawn to.
Can you show me that first before anything else, please?
Possibly, but again, I just don't know that I want to list with an agent.
Well, let's put it this way. When I come and see you, like I mentioned, I will not list it unless I feel I can sell it. Fair enough?
Okay, but just know that if you come, I at this point, I don't intend to list. You'd have to impress me to make me think that you could do the job that the other agent couldn't do, or that I could do.
You know what? Thanks for opening that opportunity up. I really appreciate that, because what you just told me is that if you're impressed, then you will go ahead and list it. But you have to be impressed first, correct?
Yes, very.
Thank you for that. Because what you've demonstrated is that you're focused on the goal of getting the home sold. You're not here to beat out agents. And I know you may have been getting calls before this, but thank you for that opportunity. So I'll definitely see you. It's 7 o'clock. Is that okay?
Yes, 7 o'clock will work fine.
And just a quick question before I come. What is it that would impress you? Like, what are you looking for in a real estate agent?
I want to see what you would do to sell my home. I don't just want you to come through with your cell phone and take pictures and then put it on the MLS, because I can do that too, and put it out there publicly where people can see it. So I need to see what you're going to do to sell my home, because the last agent didn't do that.
Absolutely. So if you want to see a plan or a marketing plan or some kind of plan, like this is what's going to happen to sell your property, this is what Richard's going to do to sell the property, correct?
Yes, and it has to impress me.
And it has to impress you. You have to have confidence. You have to see it. You have to be able to visualize it. And you have to be able to see me actually doing it, not just a piece of paper. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Because one thing is a piece of paper, but you got to be able to see that. And is it also fair to say that results are important too? Like if you've seen properties that I've sold in the area, that would also give you even further or reinforce the confidence that you already have.
Yes.
That's great. I'm looking forward to the meeting. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you a marketing plan that definitely sells a home. So when this plan is put into place, it definitely sells a home. In fact, when you see this, don't be surprised if you're so excited about getting your children to that house, to that new property, giving them the opportunities, that bigger property that you want to give and provide as a father, that you want to grab the pen from my hand. It's happened before. Don't be surprised if that happens, because you're going to be impressed and you're going to be excited and you're going to see a vision. So before I come over, all I want you to do, if I may suggest, is hold that picture of you being in that new property, because that's what we want. And when we focus on what we want, we attract it. So, I wasn't the first person to say that. So focus on that I want that house. I want it for the kids. I'm not here to beat out in the industry or out the industry or out whatever. I apologize on behalf of the industry for the last experience you had, and make that right. In fact, I feel as a real estate agent who holds myself at a high level, we kind of, as a professional, we kind of owe you one after what happened. We actually owe you one. And I'm here to make that right. All right. So I'll see you at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
And then I was pre-qualified.
So, okay, here's where you got me, Richard. You did a really good job at this. I was pretty set on not letting you get the appointment.
Yeah, I
And
saw that.
when you made me explain the best part of my house, right?
Yeah.
And your follow-up was, wow, will you show that to me first? In my head, I was thinking, if this was a real scenario and I was really in this situation and I was really that proud of that portion of my house, I would want to show it off.
Yeah.
And you had me at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I found is that you were so stubborn in one area. I had to go to a different part of your brain. I had to go to the visual. And it was almost, it's like a pattern interrupt. It was like a pattern interrupt. You notice in your brain, you go, what's going on? I noticed you were very visual as well.
I felt it. And at that point, I went, well, darn it, now he's got the appointment.
I see Andrew's laughing on the side that he's enjoying it too. So what happens is that's what really happens sometimes. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes easier. But sometimes you're not getting anywhere. And you got to pull up a different bag of tricks in real life. It's not working. You know, the guy's after the girl. He's saying, let's go for dinner. He's buying a flower. He's doing this. It doesn't work. And he goes, okay, let me get the mom on my side. On the side, forget about it. I gotta get the mom on my side. Bring her flowers. You know what I mean? So you got, so in NLP we say we don't change the goal. We change the approach. We say, okay, that didn't work. We go here. And I've done that so many times where something was working. It was great, but also it wasn't working, and I had to go somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
Like that. And if that didn't work, I would have tried. But I'm not getting off the phone until I get the appointment.
Well, I love it. Right in my head, in my head, I'm going, let the games begin. Right. I had to go up against Bruce Lee, but the comments really are the comments is that people were impressed, and that's what we were going for. I was trying to incorporate some of these objections that were coming in as we were going through that. That was fantastic.
I can do that all day long. Yeah.
I love it.
I do one of the podcasts, and I actually say to them, I've been on stage and whatever, even in marketing ones in the SeaWorld for a marketing company. And I said that I'll go on the stage, but I want questions and answers. I want, objection handling. Because remember that when I began with the real deal, because I want to be able to do what I say. I want to be able to teach it and do it. Like right now, if you told me, I get on the phone and prospect.
I don't doubt that you'd be successful at it, Richard. That was fantastic, and we've run right up to our time block here, but
I'm going to do an induction, a little suggestion, if you got a minute.
Yes, please. We've got a couple more minutes here.
I might help people like this with it because it is mindset.
Yeah,
it's a fun little thing, and if anybody wants to reach me, I can send them some stuff. My number is 416. It's my cell phone. 464-2392. 416-464-2392. And I also have a free podcast. It's called Sales Hunter. Sales Hunter. It's free. It's like 4 minutes a day before you go out or whatever. And I have a website called persuasionmaster.com. So in the meantime, I want to do, if I can get it, let me just see. Any questions for me while I'm finding this?
You know what? That was fantastic. We've made sure to put your cell phone number in the comments there, so people who come back and watch this later can reach out to you.
Yeah, it's free stuff.
I love it, and I think your positive attitude is infectious, right? And it makes sense that you're giving away that material because I think what goes around comes around, and
exactly. What I'm going to do is thanks, Tyler. I'm going to go through a little like positive kind of affirmations.
Okay.
And what I want people to do is if they're driving, then don't close your eyes. But if you're sitting down, you can close your eyes. And I'm just going to go through some positive things and suggestions for you to make more money, to get sales. And you can carry these through. So, right now, I want you to kind of close your eyes if you're not, if you can. Otherwise, if you're driving or whatever. And I want you to focus on all the words I say, on the sounds of my voice, every breath, anchoring in the words even deeper and deeper. So when you go, for example, to an open house, you can realize that you're the life of the party, that you're going to realize that you have so much charm, charisma, that they're coming to peek at the house, but for some reason, they want to buy with you. They want to list with you. They wanted to do business with you because you have so much charisma and presence. When you're on the phone talking to prospects, you're going to realize that no matter what they say, you have a rebuttal a perfect answer just for them. In fact, you're listening so intently to all the verbal cues while you're on the phone, and you're hearing all the information that's being said and unsaid. You'll be able to evaluate this information on the spot very easily to give them the answer they'll want to hear to get their listing and to get the job. At the closing table, the kitchen table, you'll notice on the presentation that your face and your body actions, your movements, your words are going to be so precise and so charismatic that it is so much charm in you that though you'll get them to sign on the dotted line to close that deal. And they're going to instantly want to do more business with you, give you referrals, repeat business with you because they know you're the one. Because your confidence exudes from your soul. You're going to be so motivated every day. You're going to make call after call on those follow-up calls every single day. Because you know, the more calls you make, the more you follow up, the more business is coming your way. And you're enjoying making those calls. In fact, you're making it into a game. Now you're turning it into a game. So now you see how you can best score and beat your score every single day. Think about the deals you'll close just from the follow-ups. How about calling your database, your past client center of influence? They like you. They love you. They trust you. It's your database. It belongs to you. It's your treasure of money and opportunity. And you come right back and take that with you in the field.
Let the games begin.
The games begin.
Thank you, Richard, for being with us. Thank you, everybody who spent time with us today. We hope that you take some of the things that Richard's taught us, that you apply those into your business. As always, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or watching this live on our website, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you comment in with your questions and things. We have amazing, amazing guests, as you've seen today on this podcast. We'll be back again next week. As always, if you're a REDX customer and you want to interact with other REDX customers, we have a customer forum that you can access right inside Vortex in the upper right corner. If you have questions that didn't get answered today or you want to connect with other prospectors, make sure to go there. Guys and gals, thanks so much. Richard, again, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Go get him.
Yeah, go get them. Hang tight with us for just a few minutes and we'll go over some things post-show. For everybody else, make sure you visit us again next week. We'll be back with more great guests next week. Thanks for taking time out of your busy lives to be with us.